So joining us right now, we've got SAG-AFTRA New England Vice President Tom Kemp. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, you're quite welcome.
So first thing I have to say is the strike is now over, so good news on that front, I imagine.
Strike is over. Yes, it was a long strike. We started the strike on July 14th, and then the producers did not come back to the table for about 3 months. We were willing to talk to them the whole time, but we even told them on the night of the 12th when we broke off talks that we would keep talking, but they didn't want to talk to us when we were on strike, and we explained to them that's what labor unions do when talks reach an impasse.
So now, I do want to talk to you about that just a little bit before we go on further, that the negotiations themselves, what would you say the atmosphere was like with them? What was it like to be actually at the negotiating table with them?
I've been involved in several of the past negotiations, and this one, it seemed that they weren't really taking it seriously, and it was a little frustrating, that we were making very little progress. In the past, there hadn't been the big issues on the table that there were this time. And in the past, we could make some progress. This time, it seemed that they were stalling and that they weren't really serious. We had told them that this was going to be a really important negotiation, and we had a heavy package that we needed to talk about. This is the first time we talked about AI, artificial intelligence, for one thing, and it's also, in the last 3 years, I think starting in COVID, the general viewing habits of the American audience have really shifted to streaming, and our streaming structure did not keep up with that residual structure. So we needed to really address that aggressively. We also needed to aggressively address funding for our health and pension plans, because during COVID, there was very little money coming into the plans, and there was at least as much going out. So we wanted to, and the health plan had to tighten their belts a lot, and we wanted to see if we can reverse that. So they didn't seem to take us seriously, and so it was very frustrating. The contract expired on June 30th at midnight, and we gave them 12 more days to talk. They asked us for 12 more days, and we agreed to that because we wanted to get a deal. And unfortunately, they really didn't make very significant moves during those 12 days. And I think most of us on the committee believe that they used those 12 days so they could open Oppenheimer and Barbie to big galas and red carpets and all that sort of stuff. And that was the reason they had wanted the 12 days, because when they came back after 12 days, I think we only met with them 6 of those 12 days. They hadn't made much moves. So that's when we decided, we have to strike.
Now, it does seem to me, of course, like you said, this was about pay, it was about benefits, typical union issues. But it seemed like AI was really the big... Like at one point, from what I understand, they agreed to almost everything except the AI piece was left out. Is that fair or accurate?
Let me get it a little bit more clear. We, as it was working out, we had made progress on AI, but it was really slow. We had gotten a little bit more headway on wages and the money and the health plan. But AI was something that we couldn't leave the table without getting protections, complete protections for. And that took a long time. It was a little frustrating at the end because I was one of the members of the negotiating committee that met with the CEOs, and then I met with, there was a small group from our side and a small group from their side, but their group was the CEOs. And then I met with their intellectual property lawyers and such, and we were feeling they didn't get it. They didn't get the threat to us that we all felt an existential threat to our profession, and we needed to get those protections. Their argument was that there will be legislation, there will be court findings, there will be cases that will set precedent about artificial intelligence. A lot of it stemming from chat GBT, that where they were taking all these copyrighted materials and putting them into their system and using them without acknowledging the copyrights or paying for them. So those were similar issues that we wanted to deal with, and so the artificial intelligence aspect of it was really the last piece that fell into place in the whole negotiation.
Now, so I also have to wonder, because, you know, the Writers Guild was also on strike around this time. Once again, for different reasons, but they also had big concerns over AI. And they eventually negotiated. Once they got a deal, did you get a little more confidence that would follow for SAG-AFTRA?
Yes, I think so. I'd walked the picket lines, for the writers when I was in Los Angeles before we were on strike, and then they joined us after they had settled to help to support us. We thought that at least they had gotten the deal they needed on AI, but theirs was a lot more straightforward. It was they had more really basic needs on AI. Ours are really complex. But the fact that the writers were able to get a deal on AI gave us encouragement. But they really only were able to get it when the CEOs got involved. We negotiate with the AMPTP, which is the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, and they are a lot of vice presidents, representatives of all the companies that really do all their negotiations with labor. But we couldn't get them to move. And so that's why the writers went on strike, and the CEOs had to come in and settle that strike. And then with us, it was the same. We didn't get any traction until the CEOs got involved. It's as one of our negotiators, our lawyers said, it's much nicer negotiating with people who can actually say yes and don't have to talk to somebody. They can actually say yes or no in the room, and that's the fact. So the AI piece, really, the last piece of the AI protections really didn't come until the very last day, and we had pushed them. We felt that our leverage for getting an agreement was at its most important, most powerful, strongest at that date. I think it was the 8th or 9th, something like that, when we said to them, okay, they're going to have to start canceling shows. They're going to have to start canceling their fall television season. And we have them now at a point where if they want to make a deal, this is the best time to make a deal. So we said, if you give us what we want in AI and you fill in these other blanks that were left to be filled in, that we wanted, things that they didn't want to put in the contract, you make a deal with us today, you agree to all these things, you've got a deal. And less than 24 hours later, we had a deal.
Now, just so we all can understand, what are the issues with AI and the union?
Well, what they're doing now, for one thing, what we wanted to do is put in protections for our actors, and that meant consent to be scanned to put into the machine, and then compensation when that scan is used. Those were really the basis of our demands. We didn't go into this thinking that AI could be outlawed or anything like that. AI is it's a technology, it's there, they're going to use it. And what we wanted to do is just to make sure that we could protect our consent to be scanned and money, compensation, if they use it. What they can do now, particularly, we'll start with background actors, they could scan a background actor, create a digital replica of that actor, and then use that replica in the background of a movie scene. One of the protections we have is that for a movie they have to do a certain number of human beings, members, actors, and for a television show there's another number. And what we got in this contract was that you couldn't fill those numbers, those required numbers, with digital replicas. You could have an actor in that in that scene as a background actor and his digital replica, but he'd get paid twice for that. So consent means, no, I don't want my image in your machine, and you can say no. But if you do use it, and they do agree to it, and then they do use it, you would get paid for the day, or however, if it was 3 days, you get paid for 3 days. So that was one of the things we wanted to get in. They can also use it if you are have a speaking role and you're a principal in it. They could figure out at the end, oh my goodness, we needed Tom not to sit in that seat. We needed him to sit on the other side of the courtroom or something. Digitally, if they had scanned me, they could move me. Now, in that case, I wouldn't, or they could change, they can change my mouth if they wanted to dub it in another language, or they might want to adjust the dialogue later. They could use AI to do that. And that wouldn't get me any more compensation, but I would have to give them permission to do it. But say they realized that there was a scene when they finished, they were in the finishing stages of editing the movie, and they found, well, we need his character, we need to see his character plant the evidence. And everybody had been wrapped, there was no set there, everybody had gone their separate ways. They could use my digital replica, and put me in that scene. They would have to get my permission, and then they would have to pay me my rate for whatever number of days it would have taken me to shoot that scene. Now, this technology is not fully developed yet, but it's developing. And in technology, you never know how quickly that's going to happen. So this isn't done very often now, but sometimes it is used to embellish or change a little bit in scenes. So what we needed to do was just plan for the future. This contract is a foundational contract that allows us to be able to adjust it in the 2 years and 7 months when a new contract will come into effect. The companies didn't want us to even put it in the contract because, as I said earlier, they were concerned about what legislation would be happening and court cases. But so they wanted us to wait, and of course we said no, we can't wait. We agree with you that we need to talk about it consistently, and so we set up in the contract every 6 months we will be having discussions with the AMPTP about where it's going, what the legislation is, what the court rulings are. So we'll agree with you on that, but we're getting the protections right now, and then 2 years and 7 months we can maybe figure out whether they're needed or they need to be strengthened.
Now, just so we can also understand on a local level, how many people are impacted by this that we're talking about?
A lot of every member who works on a movie or a television show that's shot here in New England is impacted. We have about 4,000 members in this local, and a lot of our members do a mix of principal work and then background work to fill in to get for money. So anybody who does those kind of roles is impacted by the AI, because a lot of times already background actors have been scanned when they show up for work, just in case. But in the old contract, which if this contract isn't ratified, would stay in effect, they have no protections. They can't say no or yes, and get no money for it. So what the new contract does is protect all that. But it does affect virtually every actor in this market. The AI does, and all the other things we got in the contract. This is an enormous contract. It's one of the biggest. Financially, it's more than 3 times our last contract. It's actually more than our last 3 contracts combined, even adjusted for inflation. So it's enormous. But we got changes in a lot of other things. The AI was the one that we just needed protections and to set the table for what's going to happen with AI. Right now, it's going to be very costly. Somebody estimated it's by $10,000 to $20,000 and a few days' work to assemble a digital replica of someone from the scanned material. So if you're going to do that, rather than pay somebody a couple $100 a person, $200 to be in the background, it makes more sense to hire people. But that cost may go down, that time of construction may go down. And so what we needed to do was put the restrictions in. They have to give you 48 hours notice that they're going to start the scanning process in this new contract.
Now, I also wanted to kind of, as a side say, when I think people think about actors, professional actors, they tend to think of the big Hollywood names who, have the multiple homes and all that. Yeah. And for many people, though, that's in the acting world, that's not actually the reality they live in.
Oh no. I'll give you just a benchmark. It's about you have to earn about $26,000 in the union work to qualify for our health plan, and only 13% of the membership does. So that gives you a reference as to where we are. I brought someone with me to our kind of victory party on Thursday, and she said, "My God, there's people here, every shape, size, color, age, ethnicity, everything here." I said, "Yeah, that's who actors are. We cover the full spectrum." And this is a working class issue. Our lawyers, again with the AI issue, our lawyers who have dealt with intellectual properties and protections of image and likeness have said that this contract could be the basis for a lot of contracts going forward in other industries to protect people from being exploited by AI, and it may be a template for some legislation. So we feel we have it really covered.
Actually, it's interesting you brought that up, because we did, during your strike, we talked with the president of the Massachusetts AFL-CIO, Mr. Stephen Tolman. He basically was saying that, this is something they're very concerned about across the labor movement.
Yeah, I was very surprised, actually. We were doing a rally at the NAACP convention and got a lot of support from other unions there. And I was talking to the teachers union, and they said they're worried about AI, that, they could have artificial, digital replicas of teachers teaching classes. So I hadn't expected that it was that it would affect those other industries. Certainly, the writers I can understand, but in other industries they're very concerned about it. And so we, and Mr. Tolman was correct. I talked to him also during the strike, and it was paramount in their mind too that we didn't we didn't give that subject short shrift, and of course we weren't. It was right up there in the top. It was one of the top 3 or 4 that we could not leave the table without getting a deal on.
Now, this deal, it still has to be ratified by all the members, correct?
Yes, it has to be ratified. They're voting now, and I think it's December 4th. I think that the balloting is over. I'm sure it's going to pass. I'm hopeful it'll pass. It would be catastrophic if it didn't. But there are people who are opposed to making any deal on AI. I think they're quite unrealistic because they're really thinking that AI is the root of all evil and that we can outlaw it. And we felt that that was not the case. We thought that we needed to corral it. We needed to get in front of it, and that's what we did in this contract. There are some people on social media who ask questions and then don't listen to the answers. Actors are not unusual in that way either, and so we're hoping that people see the sense of this, the richest contract in the history of the entertainment business, and the first contract to really put guardrails on AI.
Now, does this mean right now it's back to work for everybody, or?
Yeah, we're back to work. We were back to work as of, I think it was the 9th of October. We did sign a separate agreement with the AMPTP that it was a strike suspension agreement, and that had some things in it like how the health plan qualifications would happen because of the strikes, and there are certain articles in the contract that go into effect 30 days after ratification or a year after ratification, that sort of thing. And this agreement outlined how those would be affected by us going back to work immediately, because we used our power with the producers about the date because they wanted to go get their television season going. And we knew, because there were some members of our committee who were on those shows, that they had start dates already put in. They had hired the crew, they had built the sets, they had gotten the locations. And we said, okay, so they need to make a deal, don't they? And that's why we were able to push them. And so we agreed that once we both signed off on the agreement that we would allow people to go back to work until the deal was ratified by the membership.
And locally, how many productions do you see coming to this area, if you can give us?
I'm not really sure. We don't have a lot of television series here. We have some streaming series that are often shot here. Most of what I would say we get are films, our movies. And though I think there are about 20 projects in the pipeline for the next year already. So when and I also know from friends in the union that they've already gotten calls to do background work on a couple of films. So there are some films that are going to start up pretty quickly, I think. But I think there's about 20 to 30 that usually come through. It's a lot of work, for our members. So I'm hoping. I auditioned for a movie that was going to be shot here before the strike, and so I'll hear like 6 months later whether or not they're even going to do it or not, or whether I'm even cast in it.
Well, thank you so much for speaking with us. We do appreciate it very much.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's a real seminal contract. It really changes the SAG-AFTRA's relationship with the producers and with everybody else in Florida. I mean, Fran Drescher, our president, said, we started this as the biggest labor union in the entertainment, and we finished it as the most powerful. And I think she's right. I think we are set up to thrive.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.